we had shared these preliminary results I remember talking to somebody at a conference about this. He had worked for some sort of waste management company, and he said that the thing that he found that really reduced paper towel usage was how rough the paper towel was. That's like another form of default. Anyway, very powerful effect.
So Jen Wang has over a decade's worth of experience applying interdisciplinary approaches to address issues of environmental sustainability. Originally from the Canadian prairies, she's since worked around the globe while at organizations such as the World Bank and the UK Behavioral Insights team. Her current work as a director of product at thredUP is focused on the online clothing resale market and the impacts that consumers can have when they buy secondhand. Across these many experiences, Jen has become an evangelist for best practices in data and human-centered design. Jen is passionate about amplifying the voices of others and sharing impactful work, especially in support of social enterprises and topics related to environmental sustainability, social equity, and access.
Yeah, my career path so far has been pretty nonlinear, which has been very interesting so far and not what I would have predicted. I was a very, very serious musician growing up. I still play music and still give concerts occasionally with our chamber group. I studied molecular biology in my background, and a lot of that, seems so unrelated to a lot of what I do in the social sciences or with understanding people's behavior nowadays. Fundamentally, the principles there are around systems thinking and thinking about how different parts of the system interrelate and how design affects behavior. So I work at a company called thredUP, and in my position, I work at the middle of all of these different functions. So I work with data scientists and with designers and with engineers, marketers, like almost every single function across the company. That was founded about 10 years ago, and what they do is they're an online marketplace where people can send in their clothes essentially in a box, and then on our side, thredUP will sort, take pictures, price the item, list it online. There are other marketplaces that are more peer-to-peer, so it would be like the equivalent of eBay for clothing. This is more of a managed marketplace where thredUP actually takes care of most of the listing. There was a big Marie Kondo craze about a year ago, and we saw a huge spike of people sending in things because that's these are people who are cleaning out and they just want to get everything out of their closets or their homes. And then on the buyer side, anybody can come and browse. We make it really easy. One thing that is a challenge and has been a challenge for the environmental movement overall is, how do we make this accessible to a wide variety of people from different walks of lives with different circumstances. And one thing I think that's interesting about the secondhand market is that it's one of the few places where I've actually seen, not always, but I've seen more potential for alignment between economic reasons and sustainability reasons, right? Oftentimes when you buy secondhand, not only are you extending the life of that item and reducing your carbon footprint, but you actually oftentimes have options that may be less expensive than just, something that's marked up for a first purchase. But that's an ongoing challenge, I think, for thredUP. It's an ongoing challenge for the any kind of consumer environmental option. We don't want to make those options so expensive that only people who have the means can access them. Whereas before, I don't think people even thought about what they were putting on every day as having an impact, nor were they thinking about, when you look at something, instead of throwing it away, it's like, what kind of embedded value is still in this object or item, either for myself in another use case or just for somebody else who might want that item. Oftentimes when we're thinking about interventions to change behavior, we think about it in terms of, okay, do we need to educate people so that people know more, right? Like through signage or through education or through talking to other people, or do we use choice, what we call choice architecture, or basically designing a default such that the default is kind of the desired behavior that you want. The concrete example that comes to mind, I'll use this paper towel example, is that we were trying to figure out this service is basically trying to roll out composting of paper towels in bathrooms. And one of the concerns is that if you do that and you tell people that the paper towels are being composted, there's this phenomenon called licensing where they might actually feel really good about their paper towel usage and they're knowing that it'll be composted, and then actually start using more, right? And in the order of reduce, reuse, we want actually people to reduce their consumption, not increase it, even if it goes into composting. And so we tested a bunch of things. We tested a bunch of different signage, like, telling people like, oh, remember these come from trees, or just telling them that these will be composted. And then we collected all this data, and then we were looking at our results. And one of the things that we found is that none of the signage actually seemed to make that big of a difference. Actually, nothing that we could detect. So even when we told people that things are composted, it didn't really make a difference. But we did actually find something surprising that made a difference that was not even part of our true experiment, which is that, so we just set everything to default to short. And so people could get more, they would just have to wave their hand over the sensor thing multiple times. And we actually found that this standardization actually caused a huge reduction in paper towel usage overall when you look at length. And that's because, we changed the default so that it was the shorter default. And some people did end up increasing the number of paper towels they took. They would take 2 rather than 1. But if you look on the aggregate, even those people who took more than 1 didn't make up for all those people who don't think about it. They just wave their hand, take whatever length they get. When you're thinking about defaults, you can set up structural defaults in the sense of like, oh, this is just the paper towel length that you get. But you can also set up social defaults, right? Depending on what the social norm is and what everybody around you is doing. That can oftentimes be the easiest choice for people. I remember talking to somebody at a conference about this. He had worked for some sort of waste management company, and he said that the thing that he found that really reduced paper towel usage was how rough the paper towel was. That's like another form of default. Anyway, very powerful effect.